Hey everybody, welcome to the Enhance Your World show. I am your co-host, Chris Alba. Larkin's going to be joining us shortly for today's show. She's just getting logged in. And today we're going to talk about taking action towards your desired lifestyle. The thing about as we expand our awareness, our field of conscious awareness, rather, we become aware of, of all these possibilities and ways to uh, uh, bodies are uh, uh, our totality of consciousness, depending the uh, uh, philosophies that we follow, the belief system, create a feminine energy, right? More of our heart energy, more of our uh, 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 um, creative energy, curious, that I would say that for is a form of egoic expansion. Live our purpose. Expanding through centered we are between the judgments of good and bad, right or wrong. The more we can see the totality, the wholeness of truth itself. Um, how to behave, how to show up in this life. So a lot of us, or programs or beliefs, that's where the shadow work comes in, and there's all these different methods and modalities to do shadow work, right? Whether it's plant medicine, meditation, forms of therapy, practices and techniques, journeying, all these different things, breath work, all these different things can bring these new levels of awareness. Then we need to take action through the mind, through our heart, and through our physical body to be in what most would probably consider non-duality. I can't speak for anyone else. I've read, countless books and studied for decades on these various techniques and procedures and practices. And, I've been working as a professional healer for over a decade now, and guide. And one of the things that I know I've had challenge with in my life sometimes is getting stuck in my mind and not putting my actions, not putting my plans into action, because the timing feels off. The conditions don't seem right. The circumstances don't seem aligned. And so sometimes we say, to set the intention, right, and then let it go. Because if that's your true vision, if that's your true passion and purpose here on this planet to walk, well, then it's going to naturally unfold for you, because that's going to be the level of your consciousness. That's going to be the level of your focus, your determination, your resiliency, your morals, your values, those types of things, to move towards a certain vibrational state that we live here in this physical reality, bringing consciousness, right? The invisible, the intangible, the infinite abundance of possibility and opportunity, and bringing it through our actual beingness to manifest out into this physical, denser form of energy that we would, I guess, consider reality. Hi, Larkin. How are you doing? Larkin, are you? Oh. She's here, but she's not.
I can hear you. No problem. I can hear you. No problem.
Oh, awesome. Great.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Wonderful. Wonderful. We can hear you too now.
Good.
Okay,
yeah,
awesome.
I had a little bit of time trying to get my hotspot on today, so I don't know what that's about, but that's okay. I think I've used up all my high-speed hotspot, so it takes a little longer now to get going. So, no, I love what you're talking about, and I think that
Right.
I think that, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I think that it's important that our audience knows, why we're talking about what we're talking about today. And maybe that's what you went over already. But there's so many different levels. I don't want to kind of jump off where you were. I mean, I don't want to jump into a different direction from where you were.
Right.
And it sounds like you were talking about, things unfolding and manifesting according to, like, allowing things to happen and getting our consciousness to the state at which they do. I know that's not exactly what you were talking about, but that sounds like the alignment of what you were discussing. And I know one of the things that Chris and I wanted to talk about today with all of you was the topic of action. That's how we came to this topic. Was we were discussing action. And I think that a good question, the questions that you ask yourself are as much or more important than the answers that you get or the answers that you seek, because you're going to get answers according to the questions that you ask. So are you really asking the right questions, if I can use that term, the right questions? And I think one of the conversations it's important for people to really check in with themselves about is, what actions are you prompted to take? What actions do you take because it's a reaction and it's out of fear? And are your actions matching up with your vision, with your intention, and with your choices? Or are you making choices and then not following those with your actions, but you're taking actions that are out of alignment with the choices that would get you where you want to go? I know that all sounds very complicated, but these are all things that my coaching clients have to deal with. When people come to me and they say, well, I've been trying to manifest for years or trying to change something in my life for years and nothing seems to work. Well, this is a big part of it. Is, you guys, you hear me say this every broadcast, but you're only conscious of 5% of your mind. So think about this for a moment. If you're only conscious of 5% of your mind, and the 95% of your mind you're unaware of is deciding your life, whether you know it or not. You might say, I'm going to quit smoking, or I'm going to exercise more. And that's the 5% of your mind that wants that has an ideal vision for how you want to be or what you need to change. But your 95% of your mind says, wait a minute, that's not part of your identity. That's not part of your story. That's not what's comfortable. You don't like those habits. It's more fun to do this. And you won't even be aware that that is your program. And so when we talk about taking action, what is really meant? And I think if you guys are taking notes or your journal, it's really important that it's hard for me to squeeze this in like a live versus like an hour private session with a coaching client, right? But I'm trying to be thorough. And if you guys want results, real results, you have to really ask yourself, where are you taking action? When are you taking action? And is the action that you're taking in alignment with what you really want? Is the action that you choose to take anything different than what has gotten you where you are before? So, no matter what your consciousness is and what your desire is, are your human actions and choices that are followed up with actions, are they in alignment with that? And I think that's a really great place for people to start. And that's only the tip of the iceberg, right, Chris? Although from my end, you're frozen. It looks like you're giving me a smirk.
Sorry, I'm aware of what you're saying.
There you are. Okay. Now you're smiling. I got it. It just looked like you were like frozen in this funny little smirk. And I'm like, oh. That's
you there?
Yeah, I'm right here. All right, I'm gonna
Well, I think we lost Larkin.
Nope, I'm here.
So
nope, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
I'm right here. I can hear everything you're saying. It's good on my end.
Yeah, okay, cool. Because like on your end, it's all choppy. Like I heard like every other sentence.
Oh no. Okay. Well, do you want me to log off and back on? Do you think that would help? Maybe I could try that. I'll try that.
We can try that and see if that works.
But did you hear what I was saying about the choices?
The beauty of trying to do live shows and move about the day as we do, this is a great example of hiccups that come up and how misunderstandings and miscommunication happen, and those kind of circumstances and those types of things happen as we're going through life. The question is, what are we doing about it now that we've become aware of it? It is true. They've said through science that 95% of our life is in the subconscious, which is usually programmed the first 7 years of life. So what does that mean? We either have to reprogram ourselves, and there's all those different methods that I had talked about before. And, where Larkin and I kind of differentiate a little bit is in our ways. I believe meditation is a vital practice, just as she does. However, I also believe that our plant consciousness has, our brother plants, brother and sister plants have ways of showing us and helping us through these things, through the act of visioning and surrender and allowing those things to come up. And I think that's why the popularity of psilocybin and ayahuasca and San Pedro and marijuana and rapé and all these things are becoming more and more popular, because they do help ground us in physical reality. At the same time, a lot of times they open these portals or these opportunities to see beyond our conscious awareness and what seems scary to us, so that fear blocks us from being able to access those past thoughts, feelings, and experiences. So then, we can see them for what they were, and an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to gain something, an opportunity to learn something about ourselves or another person, gain awareness essentially. And that will help us grow through the refinement of our actions. Larkin, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I've been able to hear you this whole time. Okay. I know I've been choppy, which is a shame, because what I said before was really important, but
right.
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, perfect.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, you're coming in clear right now.
Okay. Yeah, so I absolutely, completely and utterly disagree with you on all of that. Completely. So I feel like I have to voice that. because the truth of the matter
Sure.
is that if you're using something like that, it is actually taking away from your consciousness. It is not really helping you get through the fear. I know people think that it is, but it's really not. The reason we're here to have these experiences is not to get away from them, not
Well,
to get,
you know, and again, I understand.
sorry, I'll let you talk. You must not have heard me talking. So I'll let you finish.
No, you're fine.
Well, I think it's important to be said because I think a lot of people do these things.
Oh, no.
Smoke marijuana, do
Right.
ayahuasca, all of that because of the same things that you're sharing. And I feel like it's very important to teach the opposite as well, which is where Eckhart Tolle is coming from. That there is the illusion that when you do these things, it grounds you. It does not. That it brings you to a greater level of awareness. It absolutely does not. That it helps you get past the fear. It does not. It prolongs what you will have to deal with anyway. And so I think there will be people that are in agreement with you and that will pursue that and that will be their path. But what I see is that becomes a trap that is an easier, more comfortable solution. And it's really just another way of avoiding pain. And it's another way of compensating for another form of addictive thinking. And so I know there's the element of history and the shamans and all of that, which, you know, I've had training in. I know I've been in a past life. All of that is great. But there's also other elements of that we nowadays in this day and age are missing. That it is really being used for other things, and people are not really aware fully, even though we have shamans coming in and really making money off of us, teaching us some of these things. It's still not the same full effect, and it's still not really being used the way that it was in ancient times. My belief is that when the dimensional gates closed between the world, one of the ways that people were able to keep that connection with the other world and not completely get sucked in to the cognitive that we have now was through a lot of the shamanic things that these people took, things like ayahuasca. But in truth, you can walk between worlds without that. I do it every day.
Absolutely.
And so I just want to throw that out there to make sure we have both sides of that coming out to our audience.
Right.
That wherever they are, they're not, anyway.
Yeah, it's I mean, the purpose, from my view anyway, our purpose of life, each of us has a unique purpose, and that's to walk our way in life the best way we can, within ourselves, and again, how we affect outside of ourselves, through humanity, through, our planet, through, respecting the plants and sustainability and, honoring spirit, which is the consciousness of all things. And there's many different ways to go. And I agree, you can't use these any method in my view. I don't care if it's meditation or what. You can't use that as a substitute for experiencing life. It is an experience in life. That's the whole of it. I mean, that's the so above, so below type situation. You can't separate themselves. The mind will separate them because that's how it gets its directionality of what's right for me or what's not right for me. I can talk about my personal experiences with plant medicine and where they've been helpful and where they've been hurtful, just as meditation has, just as breath work has, just as cognitive behavior therapy has. There is no one right way, because if that was the way, then we wouldn't have any discernment in saying, no, that's not my way or the way that I believe that it should be. Right. we would just be in agreement. If it was an absolute truth, there would just be, you couldn't disagree with it. It'd just be like, it's like trying to disprove energy. You just can't do it. It's just,
you can, and people do. I mean, we're going to have a fun show today because I disagree with all of that. Every bit of it. Every bit of it. Because you can. And meditation
right. And you're right.
But we don't want to get into an excuse of, oh, it's your opinion or my opinion. I don't agree with that either. Meditation is not the same thing. And the reason is because, and this is where words and people's categorization become exceedingly dangerous.
Okay.
Meditation has become a popularized thing. It is now thrown in the pot with every other damn thing. Every other thing. Everybody uses the term meditation. Nobody's really teaching it. Nobody even knows what the hell it is. And it becomes really exhausting to see this and to see people making millions of dollars over selling their meditations. A guided meditation is not the same thing. Meditation is only when you get yourself into a theta state where you are able to actually be conscious as the eternal soul that you are while you are awake without thought. And to be honest, there's maybe a handful of people on the planet that actually really do it. And so we throw the term around. Cognitive therapy is an entirely different thing. And they take you different places and they do different things. We have to discern between what is working on our cognitive mind and our mental and emotional habits that work with our nervous system, which is physical. And the plant-based medicine and the hallucinogens and all of that, I don't always disagree with those. I think they have their place. However, they are working with your nervous system. True meditation takes you beyond thought. It takes you to an entirely different state where that is a state that you are prior to being born and after you leave this world. And that is an entirely different experience. When you do that, you can cut the chase of a lot of things that you're working through. You can cut a lot of the time out.
Sure.
You can cut a lot of the suffering out. But it is not that you go into a meditation and you wake up and you have this realization. It is that you are transcending your current state, almost like you don't have to leave your body to do it. It does not have to be an OBE.
Sure.
But people are into they're into these experiences. And I think we have to be very Puritan when it comes to this, because too many people are using terminologies and they're using it for money, and they're into their way or no way. And this isn't about me trying to get my way. This is about me trying to get past the words and the words that have been misused and that are misunderstood and that are mixed up. And for people that are really wanting to transcend these things, it is pretty simple. You must learn to get present. You must learn to get into the now, period. That's it. You either find meditation to do that. Maybe you walk in nature in silence. Maybe you get the power of now and you learn to get in the moment where you can literally just go for hours and not even think. And that sounds boring to our ego, but the truth is that this is a whole different way of being. And I talk to people about this and they agree and they talk like they know what I'm talking about, and they don't. There is a handful of people on the planet that know what I'm talking about. And you guys can choose to take whatever you want to whatever level you want. You can either change something little in your life. You can change a habit. You can create transformation. You can learn to manifest. You can consciously awaken. But those are all different levels. And most people will not consciously awaken in this life. They'll become a little bit more conscious. But sorry, I don't mean to be on a pedestal here talking, but I think it is so important that we cut through the bullshit and we cut through the terminology. And people stop going in circles. Let me try this technique. Let me try that. Let me do this. Let me do that. The truth is those things, as you were saying before, Chris, you can each choose your own path, but in the end, those things must lead to being present in the now, which means learning to quiet your mind and be conscious while you are awake, or at least recognize that you are not your thoughts. And if we want to overcome struggle and suffering, if we want the freedom to be powerful manifestors, you must do those things. And if you go back throughout history and all the great master teachers and all the best manifestors, you will find that no matter what they called it, that is what they did. And if we do it through, we get tied up in some sort of technique, even Reiki, or a particular meditation technique, or a, I don't know, something that we're putting in our bodies. You can go that way.
Intellectualizing.
But it's yeah, absolutely, because it's thought. So anything that has to do with the nervous system and the mind is going to take longer. And so the truth is you cannot put out fire with fire. So if you want to be here as a conscious being, that means you must be here with your consciousness mastering your mind. If you are going to do that, even in the tiniest amount, your focus has to be on that. And the truth is that when we put things in our bodies, we take that away. If we drink, if we smoke, if we eat sugar, I'm addicted to caffeine and sugar. It has the same thing. If we get dehydrated, it does the same thing. So it can push us to points. You guys might have a near-death experience by being dehydrated or by overdosing on drugs, and maybe it'll change your life. So in that way, sure, it can serve you.
Yeah, I killed myself. It changed my life. Yeah.
Exactly. But if you want to know what the actual straight and narrow path of all that ends up being, no matter what long, windy path you choose to make it, you must realize, not intellectualizing, but you must actually experience yourself beyond being your thoughts. And that's why you hear me.
Right. And that's why I'm an advocate. I've been an advocate for the plant medicines, because it has helped me and a lot of other people that I've worked with, and I know outside of, working with them, be able to do that in more of a way, because they've had to sit in it. Again, it's how you use the medicine. There's so much to it, and sitting with people that have walked the path for 10, 20 years, and have worked with countless different teachers along that path to learn new whatevers, helps them understand that, the Hermetic principle number one is everything is mental. Everything is consciousness. So if we're not aware of it, then it's part of the possibility. It's part of the void. And that's where we create from. Hanging on to, as we say all the time, you have to surrender your identity. You have to surrender your programs. You have to surrender your beliefs, because that's how we expand beyond that level of mental consciousness, from my view. I can't speak for anyone else's. I can share books and quotes of other people, but those were their experiences. I choose to come from my own versions of things and the stories and things of working with other people and talking to other people about their personal experiences. Because when I get to know other people, I get to know myself better. The more I get to know myself better, the more I'm aware of other people. And that's helped me on my path. It is what it is. And that's how I identify it, I guess, as it is. And everybody has their way, and should be given permission to find their way, because that's love. It's an acceptance. Someone's got stage 4 cancer.
Yeah, and they already have permission.
Absolutely. Right. But like if someone, let's say someone has stage 4 cancer and they're choosing not to do the modern medicine procedures, you know, the amount of pressure that comes from the outside world really can cause separation in their own wellness, because we just want to be loved and accepted at the end of the day. We want to be held. We want to be nurtured. I mean, it's the act of compassion. I mean, that's the compass that moves us together. You know, because we're just walking each other home anyway. And all of the stuff that we do here in this world, you know, is to help evolve the totality of consciousness. You know, so it can be aware of itself in all of its variations and forms.
Yeah, and if we take this back to, you know, we're taking this back to calls to action today, because that's what we're talking about,
Right.
is
Right.
calls to action and your choices of action. You know, like where is action taking a part in your life? And I think that's what, you know, you guys need to really think about. Again, I would journal it. I would take time to, you know, sit with that, and you know, really get to know yourself, because it is when you get to know yourself that you know and begin to understand others. And most people, I find, are not really aware of where they're not taking actions that will help them get the results that they want, where they need to take actions, and perhaps where they're taking actions that are a habit of actions that are continuously creating what they don't want. And so it's really important that you guys assess that for yourself, and that you become aware of the part that that's playing in the reality of your life. Because a lot of times I find, I know this was true for me, and it's been true for my coaching clients for, gosh, over 15 years that I've been coaching, is that most people are not aware. They look and they say, well, you know, the world is doing this to me, or this is happening to me, but they don't recognize how their action or lack of is affecting them, you know? And that's something really each person has to assess on their own, because action can be anything from an inside change that you're following up with a choice you made, to, you know, getting out there and physically doing something different. And I think it's important people realize that, you know, like, words are an extension of your mind. So are actions, because as a human being, they become, you know, the physical extension and manifestation of you. But what people don't realize is that if you take action, if you have an intuition or a conscious choice, or you become aware of some of that 95% of your mind that's running your life, and you want to do something different, your mind is like a hologram. Your ego is like a hologram. If you step outside of it and you take an action beyond what your mind is trying to get you to do, from a higher state of consciousness or awareness, or you're making that difficult outside of your comfort zone choice, it's like stepping off of the hologram or out of the holodeck, right? At least before Star Trek said that holograms step out of the holodeck. Once you step out of that holodeck, that hologram can no longer affect you. And so if you take what is going on, those choices outside of your head, and you take them into action from that consciousness, from that conscious state, then what happens is you're taking your power back. So let's say you can't stop eating the ice cream that's in the fridge. No matter what you do, nothing's worked. No technique has worked. You can't stop eating the ice cream. What if you were to just simply focus on, instead of thinking about the ice cream or how you can't control yourself, or, you know, you're failing, instead, what is the actual action? Break down the action. What is the action that gets that ice cream in your body? Well, you walk into the kitchen, you walk to the freezer, you open the freezer out, and you take the ice cream out. Now, can you eat the ice cream if you
No, you
don't?
buy it first.
Or that too, if you want to add those steps, sure. But that's true.
Yeah, you
That's
gotta buy it first. If it's not in the house, you can't eat it.
Well, so if we prefer to start there, I always use the fridge example, but if we prefer to start with that,
Right.
then start with that. You pull up to the grocery store or the UDF, and you walk in and you get to the freezer section and you decide that you're going to get some ice cream. Well, what ends up happening? You can't buy that ice cream, can you? You can't actually buy the ice cream if you don't walk down that aisle. You can't buy the ice cream if, I want you guys to see the horse. See the horse?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't walk down the aisle. If you get down the aisle
Right.
and you put your hand on the freezer door, if you really focus on 3, 2, 1 or 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right? We all know that. Let go of the freezer door, turn to your left and make a beeline for the checkout, right? And you focus on the actions. You can walk yourself out of those things. But as long as you're in your head, you can't do it.
Right.
And I think that's the thing is you have to get out of your head. And so when you guys, if you choose to do what we were suggesting here, if you choose to assess your choices, when are you making them? How are they making them? Are they in alignment with your vision and your desire? Or are they part of old habits? And if you guys can do that, then you can also say, okay, what is the action I can literally make sure I do the opposite of? And that's all an important part of action steps.
Right. Yeah, even re-identifying yourself.
Absolutely.
You know, saying that no longer serves me, that habit, that addiction, that whatever isn't good for me, isn't good for, and what helps me more than anything to make these decisions is because I can self-sabotage and self-hurt myself and be okay with it because it's my choice. The challenge that I have personally is hurting things outside of myself. So looking at how, my habits are affecting my family, my friends, the planet, spirit, my ancestry, my all of these different things outside of my egoic desire for this moment to feel comfort. It helps give me the strength to let that go, or to take a breath and to shift my way of behavior on a cognitive level. And I think you're right. It is the cognitive part's important, to become aware of it. But then once you're aware of it, what action are you gonna put behind that to support that awareness? Because information that isn't utilized is useless. Like we can read every book ever created, know everything about history, but if we're not living in a way that is a higher representation, just meaning that it's I don't want to say like judgment better, but like, as we've seen the evolution of human consciousness, I mean, look at how far we've grown in 100 years. Look at how far we've grown in 1,000 years in a lot of ways. Because of that growth, we were focusing on the cognitive part because that feels like we're more in control, and what we forgot was the heart part. And I think that's the balancing. There's a native prophecy, when the eagle and the condor fly together, we will know peace. And that's also seen as the masculine and the feminine coming together as one. That's the yin and yang working as together. It's the unity consciousness that all these ascended masters and all these religions and all these practices came from. But how are we applying it within ourselves to walk that path? You know, where we can be like the example of Jesus or a Martin Luther King or a Gandhi or, you know, any of these, you know, Mother Teresa or whoever, Eckhart Tolle, whoever we align with on a cognitive heart level. That gives us an awareness, a reflection of what to model ourselves after. But it's taken that extra step to bridge the two that I think brings everything into totality. You know, when I used to think life happened to me instead of for me, you know, it's easy to become a victim. And like, I can't do this because the government's this way. My parents are this way. I was raised this way. Blah, blah. You know, I don't have the money right now. Whatever the reason and logic is, that's the limitation of our belief system. And if we get curious about that and go, well, how can I do that? You know, in a good way? How can I overcome these things? How can I seek outside counsel to grow from this level of self? And that's where I think, you know, we can come in to help with our, you know, one-on-one sessions, our coaching, our healing sessions, our workshops, you know, those types of things, because it helps us get outside of ourselves. But at the same time, we have to have that personal responsibility to take that work with us. You know, you don't just go to a ceremony to have an experience, you know, transformational experience. You're going to have one. Yeah, you're going to have a transformational experience. That's why you're going, and that's your intention. That's why you actually are going to that thing. But it's energy, and energy is always in movement. So if we're not constantly moving in ways to expand our own egoic consciousness, our own self, right? Then we're not going to have the resources available, whether it's mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, sexually, socially, however you want to divide it in the mind. We'll see lack there. But the more curious we get, the more possibilities and the more avenues we see. You know, that's why all these churches are now coming up, you know, supporting the sacred plant medicines, because that's the legal way to do it, to circumvent the Schedule 1 thing that the government has. That's the way the system's set up. And it's finding that awareness and then being able to implement it into our daily lives. You know, the beautiful teaching of today has never been used before. So how are you going to use it? Gives us the freedom and creativity to try something different, to do something different. Yes, we're going to have residual energy coming from our past, because that's part of the energetic expression of things. But once we process those, once we take care of those things, that resistance becomes less and less and less and less and less. And you're just like, okay, that's what showed up. This is what can we do about it now? Because that will allow us to take a next step.
Yeah. And so if you guys can take that and again, assess your choices and your actions and what is their partnership? Because, you know, Chris, you were talking about radical responsibility. You know, we're taking responsibility for ourselves and our actions, and part of stepping into our power is taking radical responsibility. And people often interpret that as blame. It has nothing to do with blame. Blame is an egoic term. Radical responsibility is about actually picking up the reins of your power. Saying, you know what? This pattern in relationships, the common denominator is me. And I'm the one that doesn't like it. So no matter how it came to be, what do I need to change to have a different experience?
Mm-hmm.
And then making the choices. And I think what I see, Chris, I think you see this too, is that's where people fall through the cracks, is taking the action. It's easy to plan until the cows come home,
Mm-hmm.
to do your vision boards, to visualize and all this. But so many manifesting clients are like, but why isn't this working? Why isn't this happening? And there's a bunch of reasons why. But one of the main reasons is they're doing all these techniques to manifest and change and create, but they're not taking radical responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
They're not getting out of their comfort zone. They're not making the choices, or they're making the choices, but they're not backing it up with an action.
Right.
And sometimes you have like the mindset or science people on one side, you've got the spiritual, I want a reading people on the other side. And so sometimes you have people kind of faltering on opposite sides of this.
Mm-hmm.
But in both cases, like a lot of people that are into just the spiritual stuff and they want ooga booga fluffy reading stuff, they want everything on the outside to happen for them. They made the choice, so now the whole universe is going to shift. Well, have you done all the steps? Have you taken action? Because I think we forget that when our ego and our egoic story is convinced that we need to take blame for something, or something's our fault, or we're a victim and life happens to us, then we have a tendency to focus on us, right? Oh, it's happening to me. Oh, it's my fault. But when it's the opposite spectrum, when it's, oh, I can take charge. Oh, my choice matters. Oh, I can make a choice. And it doesn't matter what these external factors are. This is what I'm doing. I can have a clear intention. I'm a part of what's happening. And so I can impact that. When we go to that side of the spectrum, we have a tendency to forget about ourselves and leave ourselves out. And I think that's very important for people to recognize. You've got to include yourself in both sides. It's easy for us to focus on that negative or being a victim, but it's not so easy for us to focus on, I'm empowered. I can make a choice. Realize what choices you have. And guys, don't forget, just making a choice isn't enough. You got to follow it up. I mean, I hear people say all the time, well, I chose the relationship. I chose to stay with my husband. I chose the relationship. And so I'm going to fix these and these habits, and I'm going to be a better communicator because I chose the relationship over whatever. And so I'll say to them, well, so what actions are you going to have to take to back up that choice? And they look like a deer in headlights.
Right.
What do you mean? And they really don't know. And so I'm bringing this up because this might be a step that you listeners might still need to be aware of. We all have a pivotal point where if we get past this point, we have to realize for ourselves, there are choices we didn't know we had. And there are things available to us that we're unaware of. And it's very difficult to be aware of that which we're unaware of until we stumble upon it. But how do we stumble upon it? We stumble upon it by first choosing a change, and that's our intention. And then choosing the action that gets us out of our comfort zone. And then we're sort of dumped out into having to realize the choices that we have. Right.
And I think another part of the unconscious thing that we don't always, we're not aware of, right, is the effects that we have on other levels of consciousness. And that's where conscious communication comes in from. When we're in situations and we right, this is a key word, we communicate. It's not I and you, because that means we're two separate entities trying to work for the same goal, the same thing. And that's going to always keep a level of difference. But when it's we, what do we hold sacred? What do we hold valuable? What do we want in our lives? And when we're in harmony, with that, we need to be aware of that, be grateful for that, be appreciative of that, communicate those things. And when we're out of alignment with that, we have to be aware of those things. We have to be grateful for those things, and we have to acknowledge those things. Because that's the energy wave of our life force, you know. And the more we're evolving or growing or becoming conscious or whatever, the more we realize the ups and downs are always a part of the natural wave, but the frequency itself is getting, I don't want to say better, but more towards love, less towards fear, I guess, would be another way of looking, you know, more towards acceptance of the isness of life. Oh, today it's raining, and that's it. It's just an awareness. It's raining, not, oh, I wanted to go do all these things, and no, the rain's ruined my day, and oh, not, you know, whatever it is. Like when we become truly aware, the story itself slows down. And you know, that's why they say usually the wisest person in the room speaks the less, because they're just observing what's happening rather than trying to control or influence an outcome without having the awareness of what to say or what to do. So they're moving towards their desired outcome rather than just reacting out of the desire to survive or the desire to thrive, and then manifesting results that they didn't like, or they hurt themselves or somebody else. And then you have to go on a little healing journey to, you know, to heal that wound again. Or, you know, to heal a wound. So then we come into our wholeness again. We develop our confidence again. We develop our consistency again, because I think most of us in our lives have had parts in our lives where we had that. And that's the hard part of breaking out of the matrix, right? Because, well, we were doing it right back then. Everything was all fluffy and easy, and like I didn't have any adversity, and it was all working, and I had all these results that I wanted. It was wonderful. And then now I'm in this situation where I'm getting these results, and they're not as wonderful. I must be doing something wrong. No, that is like the grounding part. That is the doing the nervous system work. That's doing the body work. That's doing the breath work. That's doing the boots on the ground kind of work, if you will, going out and building a garden or whatever it is. Like, you know, that's part of it. But if you're doing that part and you're just the whole time complaining and you're in a low vibration, oh, I don't want to be doing this. This sucks. It's hot. It's you know, yada, 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 all the bugs, you know, all that kind of stuff. You can still get it done, but it's going to be a lot harder on your energetic being when you're in that vibration. You know.
Hi, Natalie.
Oh, I forgot to turn comments on. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. We've only had one.
Hi, Natalie.
It's great.
We're just cruising along today.
We are, but you know, but these things are all really important. I mean, these are all aspects that you guys, you know, we're trying to break down and simplify for you, because there's so much out there. There's so much material. There's so much data. It can be hard to sort. There's so many labels. And so what we're trying to do is simplify and break down what a lot of those are, so you guys understand what some of the foundational principles are. If you're wanting to, you know, get beyond your struggle and suffering and those habits that are creating that. If you're confused and you're trying to figure things out so you can get beyond the confusion. If you're wanting to become a better manifester, you know, for whatever reason you find yourself unsettled, not at peace, not fulfilled, and unhappy, we're trying to give you guys a simplified foundation, you know, that are both inclusive of our journeys through that path and those we have worked with, because I think it's very easy to get lost. And if you're in a big forest and there's a million trees and bushes, and you're like, oh my God, they said, follow the maple trees, follow the birch trees. I don't know what's what. If you can at least, get something clear, such as, like, no matter what, as long as you're hearing the creek below, you're fine. No matter what, as long as you can see the peak of the mountaintops on the top, you're on the right path. That's what we're trying to do. Here are those simple things to keep an eye out for, to be aware of, that will be a part of your journey, even though they will take on a unique form for you.
Right. Because at we were talking about a little bit over this weekend about, consciousness is everything. So you can't escape it. And we're all trying to find like the path of least resistance, which creates the most resistance. When we're just able to find acceptance and presence, right, with gratitude and appreciation and all of those lovely labels that do have meaning when you give them meaning, because the unconditional love of life is unconditional. It has no meaning until we, as individual and collective beings, give it meaning. We can't go talk to a squirrel and tell it, what to do, and it's going to go do it, because they're not of the same conscious vibration as us. Now there's ways to tap into those levels of consciousness, and they're fun modalities. I remember Eckhart Tolle talking about lucid dreaming, and he says, "Oh, it's fun." But you don't need it, and the same thing with, all of the other things that we've been talking about. Plant medicine is in that. You don't need it, but it is a thing to do, to have an experience that's going to expand you beyond what you believe is possible. That happens through, visions, as we would call it in the native tradition, and a lot of the medical establishment would call them hallucinations, because in the moment they look real, they seem real, and that can be the terrifying part of facing your shadow within that work, and being able to do that work in that environment, in a safe place with proper supervision and all that kind of stuff, can help you gain that internal strength that we're talking about, without having to go out and do it in a form of martial arts, or I did it in business, and just being repetitive and just going and going and going and going and going until I got my result that I was looking for. The challenge that I had was mentally I obtained it, but emotionally it didn't fulfill me like I thought it did. And that's where my true healing journey started, because I had reached those mile markers that I thought were important to me, but they didn't have meaning anymore, because I wanted something deeper. I wanted something more meaningful. I wanted a different experience than what I was having. And that's what helped me get to where I am today. And that's about as simple. I just wanted to feel better, the thinking better. I've always been kind of blessed with that, and I've had so much training over the years with those types of things that I became a really strong intellectual, and people came to me for perspective shifts, because I could see it from all these different angles. But what I was having a hard time with myself was the feeling aspect, because in my past trauma was closed off from that, because I was conditionally taught that boys don't feel that sensitively, that boys shouldn't cry, that boys shouldn't feel things, that good kids don't get angry, they don't get mad, they don't, they're not sad, you're just peaceful, content, and happy all the time. If you're not those things, then you're not. and that created such a suffering in me, that I tried to commit suicide multiple times, and it wasn't my time. whatever circumstances came in to help keep me here, that it happened. And I'm very blessed for that now. But it took a lot of going through those dark times alone in the dark to be where I'm at. And now that I'm a part of greater communities that have similar philosophies and similar practices, the connection is so amazing, because you can talk about all this stuff. You can share these things. We can share our ideas and our feelings openly. And we can just share them, because sharing is caring. And if it's a safe place to be heard and then reflected from someone else's perspective, then we grow. And I think that's how, as the African proverb says, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go farther, go together. Because when we all move as one coherent, aligned organism of energy, we organized energy, right? And however we want to look at that. Hi, Susie. Whether that's business, whether that's a community, whether that's a church, whatever it is, social club, whatever. When we try to do that in a cognitive way together, we come up with better solutions and better practices, because of the diversity, than if we just was here, if that makes any sense.
So, and yet we need both, because
Right.
I think we tend to confuse that with our personal journey and personal path.
Right.
And I think that, being alone is exceedingly important.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding that you can share all you want, you can be part of a community here in this world, in this earth, consciously. It is important as we contribute, but it is the individual work we do that lends to the collective. And
Mm-hmm.
so there isn't anything that you think, say, or do or don't do that doesn't have an impact on the collective, whether it be universal consciousness, human consciousness, earth consciousness, your community, your society, your family. You can any of these levels. But we have to make sure that we don't lose our, as we cross back over onto the other side, one of the first things we realize is we lose our sense of individuality, because we are reconnected with how we are a part of the collective, how we are able to say, oh, wow, yeah, if I had gotten in alignment while I was there and working on this project, now I can see how literally the whole universe was behind my back.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when we're here in human form, we have trouble seeing that.
Right.
But one of our paths here as individuals, our gifts as being human, and especially in this world, is our capacity to experience that individuation.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think, it's important that you guys going to be different for each of you, because for some of you, you may use the group or the collective or the community as an excuse not to do the individual part, or you may lose yourself in that. And for others, you might be so sort of isolated into yourself that you have trouble, contributing and participating in the group. And, but either way, I have to say this because it's hilarious. All of this is thought.
Mm-hmm.
Every bit of it. Every time we say the word, well, this is your path or my path or the path or every single time you use a word, it's an extension of your mind. And your mind is an extension of ego. And your ego is an extension of resistance. And so, as Chris was saying before, it's fine. You have free will to be here. Time is eternal, right? There is no time and space. You have eternity. There is no race. It's up to you. I know for me and my soul, I do consistently incarnate and pursue different things and different forms of awakening and evolution, just because of each of our souls is, resonates from a different place or has resonance with a particular role or job or things that we're doing at that time, our role. And that's just mine. I mean, we carry those personalities with us, even though we're a part of the whole. Other people, it's like, oh, yeah, I'm just here to come to play. And there's no right or wrong in any of this. But we need to understand that in releasing the resistance and being in a place of, like it is what it is, in a place of acceptance. But then when we want to transform something or we want to change something, see, there is nothing wrong when you're outside of your physical form. There are no problems.
Right.
There are no things you want to change. There's the constant desire for expansion and evolution, because source does that as well. But the only place where we don't even think when we're consciousness. We do not think. Think is like, it would be like a mechanical hand. Here's your real hand. Here's your mechanical hand. Thought is like a mechanical version of your consciousness. So when you're not in physical form, you don't have a brain, you don't have a mind, you're just consciousness. Well, right now you have consciousness, a mind, and a brain. That makes things more complicated. So everything we're actually here talking to you about today includes that realm of mind. You cannot be a conscious living human being and not have an ego. And so, just keep in mind, guys, anything and everything you don't like.
Larkin, you froze again. Oh, there goes Larkin. She must have lost her hotspot. We'll wait for her to see if she can jump back in, finish that thought, and then we'll wrap up for the day. While we're waiting for her to join us again, we're talking about action. So some of the things that you can do to join me along in this journey of self-empowerment, enhancement, however you want to look at that, personal growth, offer coaching, one-on-one healing sessions, sacred plant ceremonies and journeys, as well as meditation groups and things along that lines. We hold a meditation every week in Newport, Kentucky, that is free to those who want to attend. It's a breathwork meditation that has been really helpful for folks, including myself, to raise their energy vibrations. And that will also help you think in a different perspective, even if it's just for a short period of time. But you can learn about all the things that I do, how to work with me, how to enhance your life and our world, by going to the website enhancingyourworld.com. You can also find me on social media, personally, Chris Alba, and then again the social media channels of Enhancing Your World and the Enhance Your Life show. I know Larkin and I have a prayer sphere planned for this Sunday, which I'm really excited about. And so that's coming up, and you can find all that information on either one of our pages, and how to get registered and things like that. And I don't know if she's going to come back on, so we will just call it a day. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being a part of this broadcast. Thank you for your participation and your energy. All your comments and questions and subscriptions and all that stuff is very appreciated. And we look forward to continuing this show as you know, we're finding it's helpful for ourselves and others. So we want to continue this on. So thank you for your engagement. And until next time, continue on, my friends. You know, much love and gratitude for everything you are, for everything you do, and everything you choose to be, from my heart to your heart. And we'll check in with you next week on Tuesday at noon Eastern Standard Time. This is the Enhance Your World Show. I am your co-host, Chris Alba, and then we have Larkin as our other co-host. So much love and gratitude. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.